Here's your word for the day from Calvary in Lake Havasu. Visit us on the web at calvaryaz.com.
Hi Calvary, Amber here, and today we're looking at Mark 15 verses 37 through 39, and it says, "And Jesus uttered a loud cry and breathed his last, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw that this way he breathed his last, he said, 'Truly, this man was the Son of God.'" Truly, Jesus is the Son of God, the Savior of the world, who came down to live a perfect, sinless life on our behalf and to go to the cross to take the punishment and consequence for our sin. And when Jesus did that, he made a way for us to have a relationship with God forever. See, this beautiful thing happened when Jesus did that in verse 38, and I'm going to read it again. "And the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom." See, the curtain in the temple separated the holies of holies from everyone and everything else in the temple. And the holies of holies was where the Ark of the Covenant was and where God's presence would come. And see, there was only one person that was allowed in the holies of holies once a year, and that was the high priest. And he had to go through a series of rituals of purification and sacrifices to make sure that he was pure and right before God before he went into God's presence in the holies of holies. And they actually even tied a rope around his ankle, because if he wasn't right and pure before God when he went in there, he would actually die, and they would have to pull out his body from the rope because no one else was allowed to enter into God's presence. But see, when Jesus went to the cross to take the punishment for our sin and conquered sin and death for all eternity, the curtain was no longer needed. And God was the one that removed that curtain from top to bottom. This curtain was extremely high, so no person could just rip it down. God was the one that removed it, because through Jesus, we are now able to come into God's presence. See, when we choose to have a relationship with Jesus and surrender our life to him, he removes our sin and our filth, and he replaces it with his righteousness and his perfection. And so when God looks at us, he doesn't see our sin and our mistakes. He sees Jesus's perfection, and we are able then to come into God's presence with confidence. We're able to talk with him, have a relationship with him, and know him deeply and personally. See, God is inviting us to be with him, to know him, and to spend time with him. And so my question for us today is, do we recognize this gift that God's given us? And do we take the time to spend time with God, to come into his presence, to worship him, give him gratitude and thanksgiving, and to know who he is deeply? Because Jesus gave his life so that we could have a relationship with God, to come into his presence for now and for all eternity. And so I would hope and pray that each and every single one of us would choose to accept this gift that God has given us, the gift of salvation through Jesus, this gift of being able to come into his presence and know him fully and talk with him, and that we would live in the freedom that Jesus has given us and live in the presence of God. Have a great day.